Absolute chaos, but let's talk about all the books that I want to read in 2025. Give me 1 second while I kind of organize this a little bit.
5 minutes later.
So I have 33 books here in front of me and I want to read all of these in 2025. The reading part isn't really going to be hard. The discipline part is what is going to be hard. I have so many books upstairs that I have not read and I've got to start reading through some of my physical TBR. I have books on my Kindle that I want to read this year also that are ARCs, like advanced reader copies. So I need to get through those too. We're thinking kind of crazy here. Buckle up because this might be a little bit of a longer video and we're gonna go through all of these books that I want to read. I'm not gonna strive to read these in this order. This is just the order of which it has come. The first book that I have here is The Serpent and the Wolf by Rebecca Robinson. This was sent to me by the publisher, by Saga Press. They're the same people, the same imprint that published The Will of the Many. This is a book that I think is like an enemies to lovers romance, and it is a fake marriage meets enemies to lovers. It's a steamy, thrilling romantasy debut, perfect for fans of Sarah J. Maas. His proposal may be too good to refuse, yet Vasa and Reed's undeniable attraction threatens to break the rules of their arrangement. As Dominic's lethal machinations take form, everything is at stake. Vasa must learn to trust her new husband, but how can she? Especially when their political marriage begins to feel like the real thing. Yeah, I'm gonna eat this up. The next book that I have, The Naturals by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I've actually never read anything by her. She also wrote The Inheritance Games, and that book is somewhere in here too. This book has been like described to me as Criminal Minds, but teenagers. So I haven't watched Criminal Minds, but I know enough about it to where I could kind of get what they're saying. This says, 17-year-old Cassie Hobbs is a natural at reading people. Piecing together the tiniest details, she can tell you who you are and what you want, but it's not a skill that she's ever taken seriously. That is, until the FBI comes knocking. They've begun a classified program that uses exceptional teenagers to crack infamous cold cases, and they need Cassie. What Cassie doesn't realize is that there's more at risk than a few unsolved homicides, especially when she's sent to live with a group of teens whose gifts are as unusual as her own. Caught in a lethal game of cat and mouse with a killer, the Naturals are going to have to use all of their gifts just to survive. I think that the other books are about the other teenagers that have like extraordinary skills. Don't quote me on that because I really don't know, but just like judging by the names of them, that's kind of what I would guess. Oh, this says The Naturals is a Criminal Minds in a YA world, and I loved every page. A nice little change of pace from like a romance or even a mystery thriller. This seems like it's going to be a little easier of a read, so this one sounds really nice. Another YA book that I have here is Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I actually have quite a bit of this series. One of my friend's moms gave me, I think like half of the series, so I have quite a few of the books. I'm pretty sure this is about vampires.
So that was a f***ing lie.
There is a world divided by blood, red or silver. The Reds are commoners ruled by a silver elite in possession of godlike powers. And to 17-year-old Mare, a red girl from the poverty-stricken stilts, it seems like nothing will ever change. But Mare possesses a deadly talent of her own, one that threatens to destroy the balance of power. Fearful of her potential, the Silvers hide Mare in plain view, declaring her a long-lost Silver Princess. This is Reds against Silvers, Prince against Prince, and Mare against her own heart. Girl, what? Red Queen is a clever blend of The Hunger Games, The Selection, Graceling, and Divergent. I've seen some drama online about Powerless taking like directly from the Red Queen, so I'm kind of interested to see like how many parallels there are between that. Maybe this isn't about vampires. Maybe I just assumed it was about vampires because it has blood on the cover. That's probably what it was. This one is more of a classic. It is The Alchemist by Paulo Coehlo. It's a fable about following your dream. I bought this like 3 years ago when I decided I wanted to get back into reading, even though I didn't start reading then. And I was feeling like a literary girly, so I bought like a bunch of books that were like popular literary fiction books. I don't really know a lot about this book. Every few decades, a book is published that changes the lives of its readers forever. The Alchemist is such a book. It's a wise and inspiring tale about the pilgrimage that life should be. And it's really short. It's like less than 175 pages. So this will be a nice little read. I think that it will kind of like hurt my feelings in a little bit. Like I think it's going to do something to me. I tried to start it, I guess 3 years ago. I have a bookmark here and it's only on page 5. So we'll try to get through this. This will be a nice quick read. A classic that I've watched the movie about 1 billion times because my husband's obsessed with the movies Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I did listen to the audiobook of this a while ago, like when I was trying to start my reading, and I really did like the audiobook, but I've since then forgotten like everything. If you don't know about Harry Potter, this is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. This is book 1, and it says Harry Potter has never played a sport while flying on a broomstick. He's never worn a cloak of invisibility, befriended a giant, or helped hatch a dragon. All Harry knows is a miserable life with the Dursleys, his horrible aunt and uncle, and their abominable son, Dudley. Harry's room is a tiny closet at the foot of the stairs, and he hasn't had a birthday party in 11 years. But all of that is about to change when a mysterious letter arrives by Owl Messenger. A letter with an invitation to a wonderful place he'd never dreamed existed. There he finds not only friends, aerial sports, and magic around every corner, but a great destiny that's been waiting for him, if Harry can survive the encounter. After listening to the audiobook once and watching the movie a billion times, that is such a fun blurb. Like that, it just feels magical, and it's cold outside, and something about Harry Potter like really invokes feelings of like winter. I guess because they're like in England, it's cold and rainy all the time there, so this will be such a fun like lighthearted read. Then we have The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I got this at Goodwill. It looks like someone got it at a yard sale because there's a $1 sticker. I got it at Goodwill for probably $1 too, and I don't know much about this one. I don't know much about a lot of the books. I'm gonna keep saying that every single time, and I'm just gonna read the blurb. This says, we all have regrets, choices that we could have made differently, paths we didn't take, other lives we might have led. But what if you were given a chance to fix your past? Enter the Midnight Library. Nora's life has been going from bad to worse, and then at the stroke of midnight on her last day on Earth, she finds herself transported to the Midnight Library, where each book contains an alternate life, a possible world in which she made different choices. She is given what seems like the ultimate opportunity, a chance to undo her regrets and try to reach out to other lives she might have lived. But things aren't always what she imagined they'd be, and soon her choices place the library and herself in extreme danger. Before time runs out, she must answer the ultimate question. With infinite choices, what is the best way to live? That sounds heavy. Like, that sounds like it's gonna make me cry. That's The Midnight Library. The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is the same author that wrote The Naturals. This one, I think, is about like a family that their grandpa dies and they have to like figure out like puzzles in order to get the inheritance. I'm pretty sure. This one says secret passages, elaborate riddles, billions at stake. Avery Grams has a plan for a better future. Survive high school, win a scholarship, and get out. But her luck changes in an instant when billionaire Tobias Hawthorne dies and leaves her virtually his entire fortune. The only catch? Avery must move into a sprawling mansion full of secret passages, riddles, and codes. Unfortunately for Avery, Hawthorne House is also occupied by the family that was just disinherited. Avery will have to play the game herself just to survive. Sounds interesting. I think it's another one of those reads, like what I said about The Naturals, is that it seems like a mystery, but it's a different kind of mystery. This book is another book that I got from Saga Press. This is called The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I think I talked about this in a TikTok, and The Serpent of the Wolf. I put them in a TikTok on my page over there. And this one is a tale of revenge, cultural identity, and the cost of breaking from tradition in the latest novel from the Jordan Peele of horror literature, Stephen Graham Jones, which is super high praise because Jordan Peele's horror movies are out of this world. And this says, seamlessly blending classic horror and a dramatic narrative with sharp social commentary, The Only Good Indians follows 4 American Indian men after a disturbing event from their youth puts them in a desperate struggle for their lives. Tracked by an entity bent on revenge, these childhood friends are helpless as the culture and traditions they left behind catch up with them in a violent, vengeful way. That sounds scary. I may put this like closer to the end of the year, like around October when it's spooky season, because I don't know if it's going to be like horror, but if it is, I definitely need to be in the right headspace for it. I need to be expecting it. So I think that this will probably go towards the bottom of my TBR, just in terms of like when I want to read it. Like, this is not going to be one that I'm going to pick up like right this very minute and start today. This book, I'm either going to hate it or it's going to alter my brain chemistry in a way that I cannot even explain. That is A Little Life, because I have seen people reading this on TikTok Live and they're just absolutely bawling their eyes out. And like the cover, I normally don't like people on the cover of a book, but this one is just like, you can feel the despair in his face, and it's a long book. It is like 800 pages. This book sounds literally so deep and so painful. This book follows 4 college classmates, broke adrift and buoyed only by their friendship and ambition as they move to New York in search of fame and fortune. While their relationships, which are tinged by addiction, success, and pride, deepen over the decades, the men are held together by their devotion to the brilliant, enigmatic Jude, a man scarred by an unspeakable childhood trauma. A hymn to brotherly bonds and a masterful depiction of love in the 21st century, this stunning novel is about families we are born into and those we make for ourselves. And the font is kind of little. This book is going to take me a long time. But I want to get over it. Like, I want to read it. I want to add it to my trophies of books that I've read just because of how absolutely devastating it is. And I think that I may need it at some point this winter, like soon, because this seasonal depression is starting to put me in a space where I feel like I can't feel anything. I think that this might pull me out of it. However, I'm gonna have to read something like very light and fluffy afterwards to make sure that I don't end up in a reading slump. Next, we have Normal People by Sally Rooney. I mostly wanted to read this book because it is a Hulu series and it has Paul Mescal in it. We're just being really honest here. I know that this book is about 2 people that I think are like in love and then not in love. It also kind of sounds a little harrowing. It's pretty thin. Like, it seems like it'll be a fast read. It's probably around 200 pages is what I would guess. Okay, actually it's like 280. This book is about 2 people that grew up together in the same small town. They went to the same high school, and the guy, Connell, was like super well liked and the girl was a loner. And this says, when the 2 strike up a conversation, awkward but electrifying, something life-changing begins. Normal People is a story of mutual fascination, friendship, and love. It takes us from that first conversation to the years beyond in the company of 2 people who try to stay apart but find that they can't. I've never read anything Sally Rooney. I'm ready to jump in. I have Intermezzo on my Kindle, but I'm kind of afraid to start that because I think it's a pretty big book. I think it has way more pages than this. So I'm gonna try to do this one first before Intermezzo. I must have picked most of these books up off the same shelf and like not rearranged them well, because these are all from like my shelf that isn't like fun book talky books. Those will be upcoming. Next, we have Crying in H Mart by Mademoiselle Zauner. This book is a memoir, which is something that I normally don't read, but I think that a lot of people hyped about it online. This just says that it's a coming of age story about growing apart from and then getting back together with her Korean identity of forging her own past in the wake of a devastating loss. She talks about growing up Asian American, which is something that I relate to, so that's why I really did pick it up. It sounded so fun. So fun might not be the right word. It sounded so interesting, and I love reading books that are about Asian American characters or people who have Asian American voices in books, because I feel like I can relate a lot to like the things that they talk about. I think that it will also make me cry. I don't know why. A lot of these books, I'm gonna have to like stack them around because I'm afraid that they're gonna make me too emotional. Okay, and last on this first stack that we have here is The Secret History by Donna Tarte. I got this at a thrift store for $1.10. I know that Brittany Broski says that this is like her favorite book of all time, and I love Brittany Broski. I know that this is a dark academia book. Under the influence of their charismatic classics professor, a group of clever, eccentric misfits in an elite New England college discover a way of thinking and living in the world away from the humdrum existence of their contemporaries. This says that it's a psychological thriller, absolutely chilling, and that Tarte has a stunning command of the lyrical. I've seen that people either really love this or they really hate this. I'm afraid that this might be too smart for me. Like, I think I might get bored because it might be a little bit too smart for the way that I like to normally read. I swear I'm not an idiot, but sometimes if things are like too lyrical or too much like whimsical writing in something that's supposed to be really serious, it kind of loses me. I do love dark academia, so that's like the one thing that I'm like desperately holding on to, along with the fact that Brittany Broski loves this book. So I trust her and I'm going to read this year. Okay, on to the next stack. These are going to be definitely more book talky books. First up here, we have a YA dystopian novel. It's called Scythe by Neal Schusterman. This is book 1 out of a series, and I've seen that this book has great reviews, like rave reviews. Thou shalt kill. A world with no hunger, no disease, no war, no misery. Humanity has conquered all of those things and has even conquered death. Now scythes are the only ones who can end life, and they are commanded to do so in order to keep the population under control. Citra and Ronan are chosen to apprentice to a scythe, a role that neither wants. These teens must master the art of taking life, knowing that the consequence of failure could mean losing their own. They learn living in a perfect world comes only with a heavy price. Doesn't that just sound so gripping? Like that sounds so entertaining. Most of the time when I read YA, it goes by very quickly because the writing style is just a little bit more juvenile, obviously, to an adult book. So I love reading YA, and especially like YA fantasy, YA dystopian, like The Hunger Games and Divergent. Those books, they just read so easily. And I think that this will be another one that is just like that. Next, we have a series that I absolutely loved when I was a kid. I actually don't remember anything about it now. Like I only know what I rewatched in the Percy Jackson series on Disney Plus. So this is Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief. This is the first book in the Percy Jackson series. I have the entire box set that I got from my mom. This was a book that I got at Goodwill by itself. I think I'm going to send it to my nephew because he wanted to read this book, and now I have my own set, so I don't need this one anymore. So this book is about Percy Jackson, and he is about to get kicked out of boarding school again. And that's the least of his troubles. Lately, mythological monsters and the gods of Mount Olympus seem to be walking straight out of the pages of Percy's Greek mythology textbook and into his life. And worse, he's angered a few of them. Zeus's master lightning bolt has been stolen, and Percy is the prime suspect. Now Percy and his friends have just 10 days to find and return Zeus's stolen property and bring peace to a warring Mount Olympus. But to succeed in this quest, Percy must do more than just catch the true thief. He must come to terms with the father who abandoned him, solve the riddle of the oracle which warns him of betrayal by a friend, and unravel the treachery more powerful than the gods themselves. My friend Allison just reread this series and she loved it. I think it will also be a quick read because this is like even less than YA. I think this is closer to middle grade. Now a Stephen King novel for us. This one is If It Bleeds by Stephen King. This is the second book in the Holly series. I talked about this book and some of these other ones in my first video that I got my Christmas haul. So this book is the second book in the Holly series. The first one is The Outsider, then it's If It Bleeds, and then it's his newest book, Holly. And I don't really want to read what it's about because I like going into Stephen King books pretty like not knowing anything because they're just so much fun to work through and read everything that's in it. So I'm not going to really go into If It Bleeds. His writing of horror in these books are not so scary. Like they're not keeping me up at night. They're not entering my nightmares and like causing me like horrible nightmares, which happens a lot if I watch scary movies or read more intense horror books. So I'm hoping that this book keeps with that theme of not being so scary, but being pretty suspenseful. So If It Bleeds by Stephen King. The next book I have is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This book and the next one and the one after that, oh my gosh, I talked about these already. So this book is about a girl whose mom dies in an accident. She's a teenager, and she ends up going to an elite program at UNC Chapel Hill where she actually sees someone get attacked on her first night. And this is, I think there's magic. This is like a retelling of Arthur and the Round Table or something like that because it has like Merlin and stuff in it. So it sounds really interesting. If you want to know more about it or for me to read the blurb, just go back and check out my first video because I talk about it there. Same here with Immortal Dark by Tigest. This is another book that is a dark academia read. I got this. It's so pretty. I love this edition with the sprayed edges, and it's hardcover, and I don't think that it, oh my gosh. And it has a fun hardcover. I didn't even know that that was underneath it. It says, seek mind above blood. And if you must bleed, use it as ink. That's kind of crazy. I didn't know that that was that. This book is about, I think, vampires. It's been mixed in their reviews. I think a lot of people kind of call it like an average read, but one of my friends absolutely ate it up. So this one says, orphaned heiress Caden Aiden. No, that can't be her name. Kaiden Adane. I'm gonna make it not rhyme. Orphaned heiress Kaiden Adane grew up far from the arcane society where she was born into, where human bloodlings gain power through vampire companionship. When her sister June disappears, Kaiden is convinced that a vampire stole her, and the very vampire bound to her family, the cruel yet captivating Sasinios Saigad. Girl, I can't read that out loud because the names are kind of silly and I just really can't get over that. But this cover, I'm obsessed with it. It's beautiful. That's Immortal Dark by Tigest Girma. This book is kind of on the same wave of Immortal Dark and it being a dark academia book. This is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. This is about a coming of power story steeped in the aesthetics of dark academia. You know I'm gonna eat this up. You know I'm gonna absolutely love this. It's kind of a shorter book. Glad to see it because some of these books I really have got to like even it out. This one's 300 pages. Some of these books are like 500, 600, A Little Life is 800. I definitely need a lot of differencing in terms of how many pages they are. This one says, I decided that Orion Lake needed to die after the second time he saved my life. Everyone loves Orion Lake. Everyone else, that is. As far as I'm concerned, he can keep his flashy... Oh, Orion is a person, not a lake. I thought we were talking about like Lake Michigan. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, he can keep his flashy combat magic to himself. I'm not joining his pack of adoring fans. I don't need help surviving the Sholamans, even if they do. Forget the hordes of monsters and cursed artifacts. I'm probably the most dangerous thing in this place. Just give me a chance and I'll level mountains and kill untold millions. Make myself a dark queen of the world. What? Or at least that's what the world expects. Most of the other students in here would be delighted if Orion killed me, just like one more evil thing that's crawled out of the drains. Sometimes I think that they want to turn me into the evil witch they assume I am. The school certainly does. Is this just Elphaba? That sounds like she's gonna be crazy. This sounds like the protagonist or the main character in this is going to be a little bit unhinged, which is always kind of fun. And now we're going to get into a couple romance reads because I grabbed these all off my romance shelf so they're still together. First we have Jessa Hastings' Magnolia Parks. I know people, they eat this up. I love the old covers of this book. The old covers are so beautiful, but I'm not super opposed to these covers. Like I think that these covers are nice for what they are, but I do think that the other covers are just more fun. So this one is a romance book and this says, how many loves do you get in a lifetime? Magnolia Parks is a beautiful, affluent, self-involved and mildly neurotic London socialite. BJ Ballantyne is Britain's most notorious and photographed bad boy who broke her heart, but these two are meant to be and everyone knows it. Magnolia and BJ are written in the stars, just suspended in a strange kind of love that looks like hurting each other a lot of the time. I don't love that. She dates other people to keep him at bay and he sleeps with other girls to get back at her for it. I don't know if I'm gonna like this, but at the end of their every sad endeavor to get over one another, it's still each other that they crawl back to. After reading that, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like it. Just because of like how toxic these characters sound. But I think that if anything, it will be very entertaining. Next up, a book I've been like putting it off because I want to save it. Because I don't have any other Ali Hazelwood books to read. So this one is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This is her first like paranormal fantasy book that she's written. And I've been putting it off because I want to hold on to something and have something to read when I'm feeling like I'm going into a reading slump. But I'm going to do a video where I'm reading a bunch of romance books for Valentine's Day and this will definitely be in it. This one is about vampires and werewolves. And this one says, a vampire bride and an alpha werewolf form a dangerous alliance in this enthralling new paranormal romance. I don't want to read the blurb. I don't want to know anything else about it. I also know that there's nodding in this. So that would be very interesting to touch on. This one is called Sophie Go's Lonely Hearts Club. I got it at the bargain bin at Books A Million. I hate these. I can't even peel that off. I hate these stickers. This is a book by Roselle Lim. Haven't read any of her books, but I just like the covers. The covers are really pretty. I don't know if this is romance or not, but I do know it has magical realism in it. So this one says, newly minted professional matchmaker Sophie Go has returned to Toronto, her hometown, after spending 3 years in Shanghai. Her job is made quite difficult, however, when she is revealed as a fraud and never actually graduated from matchmaking school. In a competitive market like Toronto, no one wants to take a chance on an inexperienced and unaccredited matchmaker, and soon Sophie becomes an outcast. In dire search for her clients, Sophie stumbles upon a secret club within her condo complex, the Old Ducks. Somehow she convinces them to hire her, but her matchmaking skills are put to the test as she learns the depths of loneliness, heartbreak, and love by attempting to make the hardest matches of her life. Wow. This is actually a debut romance novel called Say You'll Be Mine by Naina Kumar. It sounded so good, and I know that Ali Hazelwood, she really endorsed this on her Instagram, so you know that I'm going to read it. Meghna Raman defied her parents' wishes and followed her life's passion, becoming a theater teacher and an aspiring playwright. When she discovers that her beloved writing partner, best friend, and secret crush Scythe is engaged, and not to her, she realizes that he is about to become the one that got away. Even worse, he's asked her to be his best man. No way. And even worse than that, she agreed. No, shut up. This is gonna be funny. Grumpy engineer Karthik Murthy has seen enough of his parents' relationship to know that marriage is not for him. Brother, sounds like it's gonna be. To make his mother happy though, he's agreed to her matchmaking attempts, never dreaming that he would meet someone as vibrant as Magna. Stop, it's gonna be cute. He can't offer her anything real, but a fake engagement might help her soothe the sting of planning Seth's wedding festivities to help Karthik avoid the absurd number of setups that his mother has planned for him. But soon, their expectations and insecurities threaten something that's become a lot more real than they planned. This sounds so fun. One of like the best sounding romances that I've read like in a while. So that's Say You'll Be Mine by Nina Kumar. On to my last stack. Here we have Half a Soul. Oh gosh. Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is about a girl that gets cursed by fairies and she now has half a soul. Two people that I absolutely adore on BookTube that do videos, both Carrie Cakes, Carrie Can Read, and Lex, Newly Nova, they both have read this and they both I think they both liked it. I know that Carrie definitely did like it. So I'm really interested with this. I got it gifted from my friend for Christmas. A lot of the quotes on the back of this says that it's a comfort read. It's like full of whimsy and fantasy. It's subversive and it's like a nice historical fantasy romance, which is something that I don't dive into often. It's a very specific niche. So that's Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. Next up, we have a book that I actually started. You can kind of see my bookmark in it. I didn't get very far. I only got 5 pages in. The blurb on this one says, a scholarship student who prefers the company of her dark imagination to that of most people, Samantha Heather Mackey is utterly repelled by the rest of her graduate fiction writing cohort at New England's elite Warren University, a clique of unbearably saccharine yet sinister rich girls who call them each other Bunny and seem to move and speak as one. People either like this book or they said they don't get it. I'm afraid I'll be on the latter side just because I don't think that I'm smart enough to get these kind of books. But maybe I'll love it. I don't know. We'll give it a try this year. Here we have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. Love this cover. So beautiful. This is about 4 sisters and their lives. It mainly follows one of the sisters, Jo, or at least the movie does. I think the book might be similar. It's actually way shorter than what I thought it was going to be. It's only 300 pages. A lot happens in that movie. So I'm really interested to see how it was adapted because the movie absolutely wrecked me, like brought me to tears multiple times. I think the book will do the same, but it's a nice like literary fiction and I think that it will go by pretty quickly. I want to read it probably closer to the fall time just because of the vibes that it gave me when I watched the movie. Kind of gave fall winter, so I think I may save this one for later in the year, but that cover's just gorgeous. Next we have a mystery thriller book, kind of the first one I think that I've had on here. So this one is by Ashley Flowers. This is All Good People Here. So this book was written by an expert in true crime. What are your neighbors capable of? Margot Davies was 6 at the time, the same age as January, and they were next door neighbors. In 20 years since, Margot has grown up, moved away, and become a big city journalist. But she's always been haunted by the feeling that it could have been her. And the worst part is, January's killer was never brought to justice. It sounds very thriller. Very suspenseful, very mystery. Ashley Flowers, I hope this book is great. I know that she's actually coming out with a new book too, I think this year. So if this one goes good, I may have to pick up the next one. Next we have a book that I think is part of a series, but this one is called Arsenic and Adobo by Mia M. Menasala. This was written by a Filipino author. Love Filipino authors, want to support Filipino authors because I'm Filipino. And this one says it's a Tita Rosie's Kitchen Mystery. Okay, so this is the first book in a new culinary cozy series full of sharp humor and delectable dishes, one of which might just be a killer. When Lila moves home to recover from a horrible breakup, her life seems to be following all of the typical rom-com tropes. She's tasked with saving her Tita Rosie's failing restaurant, and she has to deal with a group of matchmaking aunties who shower her with love and judgment. That is so real. But when a notoriously nasty food critic, who happens to be her ex-boyfriend, drops dead moments after a confrontation with Lila, her life quickly swerves from a Nora Ephron romp to an Agatha Christie case. I didn't even realize that there's a dachshund on this cover. That's so cute. Next we have another Filipino author book. This one is called Patron Saints of Nothing by Randy Rabai. So this one is actually about a powerful coming of age story about grief, guilt, and the risk a Filipino-American teenager takes to uncover the truth about his cousin's murder. I love this cover. That's so fun. It has like the Filipino sun in the background and then the same on the back. Like This cover art is so beautiful. Jay Ruggiero plans to spend his last semester of his senior year playing video games before heading to the University of Michigan in the fall. But when he discovers that his Filipino cousin Jean was murdered as a part of oh my gosh. Okay, but when he discovers that his Filipino cousin Jean was murdered as a part of President Duterte's war on drugs and no one in the family wants to talk about what happened, Jay travels to the Philippines to find out the real story. That's insane. This is gonna make me cry. Patron Saints of Nothing. This sounds really, really good. I'm gonna have to read this soon. Like, this has suddenly jumped towards the top of the books that I want to read this year. Next, we have a classic, I guess you'd call it. This is Truman Capote's In Cold Blood. This one, I don't know a lot about it. I love this cover. Absolutely stunning. I'm pretty sure this is a true crime novel, and it says, on November 15th, 1959, in the small town of Holcomb, Kansas, 4 members of the Clutter family were savagely murdered by the blast of a shotgun held a few inches from their faces. There was no apparent motive for the crime, and there was almost no clues. As Truman Capote reconstructs the murder and the investigation that led to the capture, trial, and execution of the killer, he generates both mesmerizing suspense and astonishing empathy. I picked this up at a local bookstore, and the person that was at the desk said they read it, and they said that even though it is a true crime book, it reads as fiction. That cover is just so beautiful. Next, we have a book that I've actually borrowed from my friend Allison, and I've had it for probably like 2 months now. Oh, my battery, 1 sec. So this book I've actually borrowed from my friend Allison. I've had it for a while now, so I need to read it pretty quickly. This one is The Striker by Anna Huang. This is her newest romance book that she's done, and I'm pretty sure this is another billionaire romance. It's about Asher Donovan, who is a soccer player that has been mentioned multiple times in her other series. Like, I think he was in the Twisted series, like the Twisted Love series, and also the Kings of Sin series. I know they mentioned him in Kings of Sin. This is about a soccer star and a former prima ballerina. I didn't know that. I haven't read much about it. I just know that's Anna Huang, and that means I'm gonna read it. However, the one thing that is like keeping me from starting this book is that this is a thick girl. Like, this is one of her longest books. This is almost 600 pages. I need to just bite the bullet and read this. I need to bite the bullet and read this after my next book. I have to, because I want to get it back to my friend Allison. And also, I'm really interested to know why this is a romance book that's 600 pages long. I actually got these next 3 books at my book club today. We had our meeting at a local coffee shop that has a free library where you leave books and take books. So I brought 4 books, took 3 home, which is, you know, my bookshelves are just gonna stay full, which it's a blessing, really. So the first book that I got here is this really nice cover of The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I read this book when I was in high school when I was trying to be cool and not like the other girls. Loved the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. That's what kind of spurred me to read the book. I don't really remember a lot of the stuff. I remember the main beats that happened in it, but this book is way smaller than what I imagined it would be for it to be that movie. So much happened in it, and this book is less than 200 pages. So I could knock this sucker out in an afternoon. The next book I have is another Stephen King novel. This one is Mr. Mercedes. This is the first book in the Bill Hodges series, which is actually the precursor series or the prequel series to Holly, which is the one that I'm reading now. I'm reading it out of order. But with Stephen King, it really doesn't matter. Even his books that are in different series, I feel like you can read them like interconnected standalones because he gives you enough background. Like, I have enough background about Bill Hodges. This is gonna send me down a rabbit hole, I know. It's because there's, I think, 2 or 3 more books in this series, and they're all pretty, you know, decently sized books. This one is about, let's see, this one is about 440 pages. Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King. The last book that I have that's a physical book is going to be Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This is a book that I think is going to be based in Greek mythology because Ariadne is a Greek mythology character. And on the back of it, it says sister, lover, traitor, hero. So the blurb says, Ariadne, princess of Crete, grows up greeting the dawn from her beautiful dancing floor and listening to her nursemaids' stories of gods and heroes. But beneath her golden palace echo the ever-present hoofbeats of her brother, the Minotaur, a monster who demands blood sacrifice. When Theseus, the prince of Athens, arrives to vanquish the beast, Ariadne sees that his green eyes are not a threat, but an escape. Defying the gods, betraying her family and country, and risking everything for love, Ariadne helps Theseus kill the Minotaur. Wow, okay. They just gave us everything right there. But will Ariadne's decision ensure her happy ending? And what of Phaedra, the beloved younger sister that she leaves behind? Hypnotic, propulsive, and utterly transporting, Jennifer Saint's Ariadne forges a new epic, one that puts the forgotten woman of Greek mythology back in the heart of the story as they strive for a better world. Love that. Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. Now, let's get my Kindle. Let's get my Kindle and pull up my NetGalley actually, because that's gonna be a lot better because I'm not gonna be able to see all of my different books on there. I have quite a few books on here and I'm pretty excited for pretty much all of them. So the first book that I have on here, I have 2 audiobooks that I'm going to listen to pretty quickly, which I love getting audiobook arcs because I can just get through them way faster. The first one that I have here is Babylonia by Constanza Casati. Nothing about Semiramis' upbringing could have foretold her legacy. Born to a woman scorned by Aphrodite. Oh yes, this is another Greek mythology. Born to a woman scorned by Aphrodite and raised as an orphan on the outskirts of an empire, Semiramis was never meant to hold power. But that does not mean she was not made for it. When she meets a young representative of the new Assyrian king, a path unfolds before her, one that puts her in the midst of a brutal world and at the heart of 2 men raised as brothers, one who just happens to be king. I didn't know we were doing enemies to lovers. This myth-based story follows Semiramis, maybe, the only female ruler of the Assyrian Empire, and the famous love triangle that made her queen, usurping both a king and the man they both loved. I don't know this one. I don't know this story. Okay, that's very exciting. That's Babylonia by Constanza Casati. The next audiobook that I have is called Bronstein and the Bronx. So this one says, a wry, thought-provoking fictional portrayal of the 10 pivotal weeks of the life of Leon Trotsky, inspired by the Russian revolutionary's exile in New York City in 1917 by the New York Times best-selling author of The Company. This is about a guy who moves to America from Russia. And I don't normally like historical fiction, but something about it just really called to me. I'll give you updates on that because I'm not so sure about that. The next book that I have on my NetGalley is Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher. Girl, I love T. Kingfisher. I have read like 2 or 3 of their books now, and I just eat them the fuck up, dude. They're so good. Hala has unexpectedly inherited the estate of a wealthy uncle. Unfortunately, she is also saddled with money-hungry relatives full of devious plans for how to wrest the inheritance away from her. While locked in her bedroom, Hala inspects the ancient sword that's been collecting dust on the wall since before she moved in. Out of desperation, she unsheaths it, and suddenly a man appears. His name is Sarkis. His name is Sarkis, and he tells her that he is an immortal warrior trapped in the prison of the enchanted steel. Okay. Sarkis is sworn to protect whoever wields the sword, and for Hala, the most unusual wielder, he finds himself fending off not grand armies and deadly assassins, but instead everything from kindly seeming bandits to roving inquisitors to her own in-laws. But as Hala and Sarkis grow closer, they overlook the biggest threat of all, the sword itself. Brother, what does that mean? T. Kingfisher's writing is just so immersive. Like, I love everything that I've read by them. Sword Heart. Sounds great. Next one that I have here, oh my gosh, I've got to stop requesting NetGalley arcs. I have so many to read. Next, I have We Could Be Rats by Emily Austen. This is actually on the book of the month. I know it is because I saw it on a ad on Facebook. And this book is a moving story about 2 very different sisters, a love letter to childhood, growing up, and the power of imagination. That sounds so sweet. Sigrid hates working at the Dollar Pal, but has always resisted the idea of growing up into the trappings of adulthood. She did not graduate high school, preferring to roam the streets of her small town with her best friend Greta, the only person in the world who ever understood her. Her older sister, Margaret, is baffled and frustrated by Sigrid's inability to conform with the expectations of polite society. But Sigrid's detachment veils a deeper turmoil and sensitivity. She is haunted by the pains of her past, from pretending her parents are swamp monsters when they shook the floorboards with their violent arguments, to grappling with losing Greta's friendship to the opioid epidemic ravaging their town. Oh, that's sad. As Margaret sets out to understand Sigrid and the secrets that she has hidden, Both sisters, in their own time and way, discovered the reigniting of their childhood imagination is the only way forward. What unfolds is an unforgettable story of two sisters finding their way back to each other in the celebration of that transcendent, unshakable bond. We Could Be Rats by Emily Austen. Sounds like it's gonna make me cry. Next we have Celestial Banquet by Roselle Lim. That's the same person that wrote the Sophie Go's Lonely Hearts Club that I have right here. I have another book by her, Celestial Banquet. The Iron Chef meets the Hunger Games in Rose Zem's dazzling wet. Oh, this is a fantasy debut. Oh yes, I remember. I requested this because she posted it on Instagram. So this says Iron Chef meets the Hunger Games in Roselle Lim's dazzling YA fantasy debut, following a young noodle chef who competes in a cutthroat cooking competition for the gods. Once every generation, the major gods hold a celestial banquet, inviting chefs from all over the continent to prepare mouth-watering fantastical feast. The winner is awarded the fabled Peaches of Immorality, along with a lifetime of fame and fortune. The losers perish per the whims of the fickle gods. A hot-headed noodle chef, Kai, enters the competition with dreams of owning her own restaurant and supporting her impoverished peninsula town. Battling impossible odds and inconvenient feelings for Bo and Sion. Oh, Kai is determined to prepare a feast fit for the gods even if she loses her life. Set in a spectacular world inspired by Chinese and Southeast Asian folklore, Celestial Banquet is an ode to food, home, and family, wrapped in an epic and thrilling adventure. Next we have Summer in the City by Alex Astor. She wrote the Lightlark series and this is going to be her romance debut. It sounds really, really good, honestly. So this book is about, oh my gosh, okay, it has a long blurb. I'm just going to read the first paragraph. I love that this is a late 20s romance. 27-year-old screenwriter Elle has the chance of a lifetime to write a big budget movie set in New York City. The only problem? She has writer's block for months and the screenplay is due at the end of summer. Oh, she's going to have an enemies to lovers situation with her new neighbor, billionaire bachelor Parker Warren. That's all I need to know because I don't want to read the next 4 paragraphs. Summer in the City by Alex Astor. The next book we have here, this one I picked because it just sounded really interesting. It has a cool cover. It's called Whack Job, A History of Axe Murder. This is a history and true crime book and it just sounded kind of like enticing. So this one is a bloody and brilliant examination at the axe's fundamental role in human history, from prehistoric violence to war to executions to newspaper headlines and popular culture. For as long as an axe has been in our hands, we have used it to kill. It's just a true crime book about axes. It sounds stupid when I say it out loud. I don't know if I realized that what it was about, but I picked it nonetheless. The next book we have is Victorian Psycho by Virginia Fido. This book is a horror book. I'm scared of it. May end up DNFing it because I'm scared of it just by the idea. This one says, Winifred Naughty arrives at Esnor House, prepared to play the perfect Victorian governess. She'll dutifully tutor her charges, Drusilla and Andrew, tell them bedtime stories, and only joke about eating children. But the longer Winifred spends within the estate's dreary confines, the more she learns of the perversions and pathetic preoccupations of the Pounds family, the more trouble she has sticking to her plan. Whether creeping across the moonlit lawns in her undergarments, or gently tormenting the house staff, Winifred struggles at every turn to stifle the horrid compulsions of her past. When her chillingly dark imagination breaches the feeble boundary of reality on Christmas morning, a Christmas horror. Oh gosh. Winifred is finally ready to deliver on her generous gifts. Girl, that sounds crazy. That sounds like it's gonna scare me. I should have actually read it like last month during Christmas, but maybe it'll be better now that it's after Christmas because I cannot wait until next Christmas because it will be out by then. Okay, next we have Flirting with Disaster by Naina Kumar. That's the same one that wrote a book that's, Say You'll Be Mine, that I said sounds like so good. This one is another one that's coming out soon, so I need to read it very soon. It's actually coming out, oh my gosh. Oh, it's coming out in 2 days. Okay, I've got to get on that. It's been years since Mina separated from her husband, Nickel. That can't be Nickel. No, it has to be Nikhil. Nikhil? Okay. Years since they first laid eyes on each other in their home state of Texas. Years since they spontaneously wed in Las Vegas and she felt true happiness. Now a high-powered lawyer on Capitol Hill and ready to move on, at least she thinks so, with another successful lawyer, Sheikh Mina has returned to Texas, this time to finally obtain a divorce. But there's one thing Mina didn't account for: a hurricane forming in the Gulf, veering right towards them and giving them no choice but to hunker down in a home they had built together. Suddenly, she found herself trapped amid gale force winds and pelting rain with men she once loved. Force proximity. Dude, these books sound so good. I can't. I'm about to like literally start reading it on my Kindle like tonight. I'm putting it on. I'm opening it. So it goes to the top. Flirting with disaster. There she blows. I'm reading this tonight. And lastly, we have the book that I am so excited for because I love Olivia Blake. That's going to be Gifted and Talented. It's coming out in April, and I'm so excited. When there's a will, there's a war. Thayer Wren, the brilliant CEO of Renfair Magatech and the so-called father of modern technology, is dead. Any one of his 3 telepathically and electrokinetically gifted children could be plausible inheritor for the Renfair throne. Or at least they like to think. Here's the 3 children. Meredith, a textbook accomplished eldest daughter and the head of her own groundbreaking biotech company, has recently cured mental illness. You're welcome. I love Olivia Blake's writing. If only her father's fortune wasn't her last hope for keeping her journalist ex-boyfriend from exposing her from what she really is, a total fraud. Second child. Arthur, the second youngest congressman in history, fights the good fight every single day of his life. And yet his wife might be leaving him and he's losing his re-election campaign. But his dead father's approval in the form of a seat on the Renfair throne just might turn the whole sinking ship around. Sorry, I've been reading a lot. I'm not great at reading stuff out loud, and I'm like getting close to the end of what I can do. The last kid. Elodie. I'm going to call them Ellie. Ellie, once a world-famous ballerina, has spent the last 5 years as a run-of-the-mill marketing executive at her father's company after a life-altering injury put an end to her prodigious career. But she might be lacking in accolades compared to her siblings. But if her father left her everything, it would finally validate her worth by confirming that she's been his favorite all along, on the pipeline of gifted kid to clinically depressed adult. Nobody wins, but which Wren will come out on top? Period. Olivia Blake. Okay, so those are all of my anticipated reads for 2024. No, those are all of my anticipated reads for 2025. Obviously, those are not going to be the only books that I read in 2025 because I'm going to be reading a lot. So what I could do is put all of these books in a list, like numbered, and then do the number generator to pick one. There's enough books where I could do like at least one a week. So that might be my best way to tackle this giant pile of TBR. These are all books that I own, and there's even more. This is only like half of my books that I own that I haven't read. It is getting absolutely out of this world crazy. Thanks for sitting down with me and going through all the books that I want to read, or at least most of the books that I want to read in 2025. If you've read any of these, if you're anticipating reading any of these, if you've ever wanted to read any of these at all, please let me know. I'm going to leave these books on my kitchen table and I'll get back with them tomorrow. I just started The Hurricane Wars by Thea Guanzon. So I'm gonna read that, and I think next I have to read The Striker because this is my friend's book and I must get it back to her. So actually I might read this. No, I have to read Flirting with the, I have so many books to read. Anyways, thank you guys for joining me. I hope that you have a great day or night. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below. Make sure you read a little bit of a book today. Bye.